Welcome to Taxbytes for Expats, the top tax tips you want to know as an expat. The podcast is here to help answer the common queries and concerns expats have when moving to or from Ireland. Complex taxes explained simply. We'll focus on the Irish and international tax issues to be aware of to ensure you save time, money, and stress.
Avoid the hassle of dealing with your bank and transfer online, by app or over the phone or Currencies Direct today. Keep listening for an exclusive offer for Taxbytes for Expats listeners, and thanks to Currencies Direct for their support of this podcast. What do you think will happen going forward? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what kind of trends do you see emerging? I mean, I know, and maybe you might weave into that some of the observations you've had for crypto holders, because we referenced that before we start to record what's happening and what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think first, okay, let's speak about crypto holders. So for crypto holders, I think the opportunities are really dwindling because the world is kind of coming to terms with crypto. They're understanding that it is a way in which you can store value. When governments in themselves are buying crypto and kind of storing it, then that's the writings on the wall, right? So, but what's happening with that as well is that crypto is starting to get a lot more regulated. And generally, the average crypto investor is the person that wanted to break free from banking and all these things that wanted to do crypto in the first place. But now it looks like they're going back to it. So a lot of crypto investors are looking at jurisdictions where crypto is recognized, where they want to be able to hold the crypto and not really have to be, paying taxes on that, for example, right? So this could be definitely jurisdictions, for example, like Vanuatu or St. Kitts, for example, where they do in certain ways recognize crypto and they do not tax it. Might be quite interesting solutions for people. But the other part of the question as to what is going to happen in the future. Here's the thing. So, for example, citizenship by investment as a concept started in 1984. It's quite a long time ago, right? So, and it's been going on since then. But what has happened in the recent past is that bigger countries have started getting involved in these kinds of programs and setting up these kinds of programs. Previously, it was always small jurisdictions like some Caribbean island nations, some islands in the South Pacific, for example, that wanted to do these. But now you have countries like Turkey, which is a fairly big economy that has its own citizenship program. Recently, we had a decree from the Argentinian government that they're launching a citizenship by investment program, which is going to attract a lot of attention for globally. So that's something that we're looking at. I expect to see a lot more programs being launched in the next couple of years. Already, we've had 3 launches this year. We had Nauru from the South Pacific, Sao Tome and Principe, which is an island nation in Africa. Botswana has just recently been announced. Argentina has been announced. These are things that have happened recently, right? So there's a lot of new programs coming in, and I think these programs are basically trying to uh, solve certain specific problems within their economy through citizenship by investment, which they see as a viable vehicle for doing something. And it really does work. So the programs are going to go up. Some programs are going to close down. I think Europe in general the programs in Europe are going to get slightly more complicated, perhaps more difficult, probably take a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see South America as a jurisdiction. Generally, there will be more countries that open up these kinds of programs. I do see that happening in Africa as well.
And, perhaps this is a question for an economist, but, what's the observations around the benefit that these programs bring to the citizens of the location? So in other words, there's I would see this as something that's accessible to somebody of certain means, but there is a cohort of people who either stand to benefit or lose by letting more people come in and invest in the country. In Ireland we had a program, and to the best of my knowledge, it doesn't have the original form now. But yeah, what do the stats show? Does it work for countries to try and get investment in this manner?
For smaller countries, absolutely. In certain countries, citizenship by investment can be up to 20% of the entire earnings from the government. So
Wow.
this is significant, right? For bigger countries, it remains to be seen. For example, the only real big country that offers citizenship is Turkey, but they're slightly opaque when it comes to the numbers and how it really affects their local citizens. So we don't really know what the answer to that is. What we do know is that they have significant investments from foreign investors going into their real estate markets, for example. And this has really boosted their economy, especially when you consider that Turkish lira has been falling and they don't really have any stability. Now people can even invest in Turkish government, in Turkish bank deposits, for example. And expect that countries like Argentina are going to do something similar. When it comes to European programs with golden visas, I mean, yeah, this is crazy. I mean, if you look at it, that every investor in Portugal has to invest €500,000 to get the golden visa. The last time I checked, there are 140,000 applications that are pending with the Portuguese
Mm.
immigration. Now, all of them are not golden visas, but I do suspect that at least like 30 to 40% of that are golden visas. So you could just extrapolate those numbers and think how much money is being injected into the local markets. Yeah,
Again, I'm not an economist, but pretty cheap form of debt for the country. In other words,
it
like
is.
it's a great way to get money, and they don't. I mean, that's a question actually, rather than a statement. Majority of the time, is it a case you put the money in and you recoup what you put in after X period? Like, what is the return for the investor apart from the citizenship that they acquire? That obviously varies, but like broad stroke.
Yeah, excellent question. And again, it depends on which jurisdiction you're applying in. Let's take an example of Portugal with the golden visa, for example. Right. So
Good example, yeah.
now you cannot invest in real estate in Portugal. This is quite clear. You can only invest in Portuguese funds, for example. The returns could be 4 to 5% per year, keeping in mind that the client must be aware that the investment funds are subject to risk. This is not like a sure shot, and that's the way the programs are designed to be.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
But based on data that we have in the past, on our own clients' experience, a person that invests €500,000 and waits for 5 years to get permanent residency, for example, can walk away with 650 to €700,000 at the end of the day. So it's not just a question of getting a golden visa or permanent residence. You actually walk away with a good return on your investment. And if you carefully plan that in a way that you reinvest back into the fund instead of pulling your dividends every year, you can save up on a lot of taxes as well. So this is actually a very viable option to invest and at the same time get whatever you need out of your mobility goal. It does change a little bit in the Caribbean or in the South Pacific, for example.
Mm.
I think the investment quality there is a little bit lower than what you would get from Europe, and that's primarily
Okay.
because of the markets that they are. However, because the entry barrier to actually get what you want is so much lower, you just wait for like a year, maybe 8 months to a year, you get the passport. There's no residency requirement. You don't have to go and live there. You don't have to do any of those things. It kind of pays for itself.
So that's when you match the client's objective with the offering. Not every visa is going to suit every individual. Not to put you on the spot, talk us through the Irish program, because I'm not going to pretend to be an immigration expert. And I know from having spoken to your team before that you have worked with clients moving to Ireland. What's happening in the Irish space?
I've personally not been involved in the Irish program, so I wouldn't be the best person to speak about it. I do know that they had an investment-based program that could potentially lead to a stamp for Irish stamp for. This has been closed and it doesn't really exist anymore. And I don't really know if the government has any plans to put anything new in place. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be the best person to to speak about that one.
And now a quick word on our episode sponsor, Currencies Direct. If you're looking for a fast, easy way to transfer money to or from Ireland without the hassle and cost of dealing with your bank, keep it simple with Currencies Direct. Whether you're buying property or require regular currency transfers, Currencies Direct can help you save money. As a special offer for our listeners, when you use the link in the show notes and quote Expat taxes when registering with Currencies Direct, you'll receive a €50 one-for-all or Amazon voucher when you transfer €5,000 or more in your first 6 months with Currencies Direct. Registration is quick and easy, and you decide how you transfer 24/7 via their online money transfer service, over the phone with one of their friendly experts, or by using their handy mobile app. Check the show notes or head to currenciesdirect.com to register, and thanks to Currencies Direct for the support of this podcast. And it just actually goes to show as well, if people are keen, and somebody in your team will be, of course, but it just goes to show that it's such a big area, isn't it? To try and navigate this yourself as a person just at a computer with a set of questions, you really do need to tap into existing experience and knowledge, because what you've got is somebody with a certain set of circumstances. you've got legal, immigration, tax considerations, both in the old country and the new. And then you've got this landscape that just changes constantly. Somebody made a comment the other day about, international tax advisors. I'm not aware that many of them exist because it's so difficult to keep up with the changes in one country. There isn't really anybody in the world who has time to track tax legislation in each jurisdiction. This is no different. This is a very fluid area. Do you find people try to DIY it and then come to you when they run out of road?
A lot of them do, especially with ChatGPT now. I mean, they're just asking ChatGPT all the questions and then coming up with like 30 questions to ask me. A lot of those questions don't even make any sense because ChatGPT doesn't have the information that I have or our team has. Like we speak to these governments on a daily basis and we know what's going on. Yeah, but it's really complicated. As you rightly said, even in our industry, change is really the only constant without trying to sound too tired. But the
Oh,
truth is that is really the case. And sometimes what exists today doesn't even exist tomorrow. Like, we have to keep up with the regulations. It's an extremely complex process. And keep in mind that even with all the experience and all the information that we have, sometimes we do get hit with certain questions which might not really have any answers because sometimes the governments themselves have no answers for these things. It is
mm,
purposefully kept gray just for the sakes of the fact that they can interpret it as they want on a case-to-case basis. So yeah, it's a very complicated thing, and yeah, definitely, I would advise clients don't try to DIY it because you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I can imagine. What's the average time frame when somebody applies? Now, this is a very broad question, but I'd love to get a sense of it. Somebody wants they want a plan B, let's say. Let's use that as an example, because ultimately, all of this is probably plan B to some extent, with other more immediate concerns for some clients. What's the time frame? Like how long from thinking about it, researching it, contacting, like your team, and then actually getting a passport in their hands?
It really depends again, and there's a wide spread here. Okay.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking about countries like Sao Tome and Principe, which has just launched, where you could get a passport in 3 months. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, in 3 months, all the way up to when you're talking about passport programs, a program like Saint Lucia, which can take 2.5 years.
Okay.
So this is the spread when it comes to citizenship. When it comes to residency programs, the actual residency portion of it can be very quick, like Italian investor visa, which can take about 2 months to 3 months to get, all the way up to Portugal, where the residence card can take 2.5 years for you to get it. So
Mm.
it's really a big spread. And then that leading onwards to citizenship or permanent residency, again, there are many, many variations. What we're seeing is roughly around 10 years. Yeah.
So when you say the residence piece there, are you inferring that you have a right to reside, or is it often that you must reside? So let me give an example. I have an Australian passport as well as an Irish one, and there was conditions there where I actually had to physically reside in Australia for a period of time before I could even apply to be a citizen. Is that often the case?
It's almost always the case. Keep in mind that the citizenship programs being kind of directed towards high net worth individuals, they don't really like to kind of relocate themselves. And therefore, there are generally no residency requirements at all. You get the citizenship and that's it. If you want to go to that country, you go to that country. If you don't want to go, you don't go. Now, we advise our clients to go. We don't want citizens that just get citizenship in a country and never really even visit because that just doesn't, that's not the spirit of citizenship by investment, right?
Mm.
People want them to go there, experience it, make some connections, etc. It's not required or mandated by law, but it is advisable. When it comes to the residency programs, again, there are no residency requirements at all. Even in Europe, the only exception being Portugal, where you have to be there for 7 days in a year. But all the other programs, even 0 days, is totally fine. So you have the flexibility. You could stay for 0 days, you could stay for 365, and they are asking a lot of money from you. So that's why they give you these kind of perks. Yeah.
Sometimes when we provide tax advice to clients, an approach I find works quite well is, rather than focusing on, well, this is the condition I think I need to achieve to get that outcome, we work backwards and we go, what is it you want? In other words, what is the lifestyle that you actually want? And, what are the tax outcomes of that? Is that a similar approach that you use with your clients, where when they have a consult with you, you determine what, their utopian situation is? Because I suppose ultimately the problem with looking at all these programs is you could get lost in comparing two without actually thinking about, well, does this suit me? I often use this example of, we've had consults with clients before where they say, I'll go and live in insert country here and I'll save loads of tax, but my kids and my wife are still in Ireland and, I won't be able to see them because of X, Y, and Z. And you kind of go, well, was the tax saving of this worth it? Like, is that really what you wanted? How does that play out for you?
Definitely, we let the clients, lead that first conversation because we want to know what their goals are, what they want to achieve. A majority of times, within about 2 to 3 questions from our side, we can understand that we whittle them down to just 1 or 2 programs because there are just so many specifics that they need to, be able to kind of
Yeah.
go through in order to get a certain way. Sometimes it can be that no program works out for them, like you rightly said. Perhaps just the value that they get from these programs is not enough, or it's not worth the trouble that they need to go through to get it. For example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's another thing to know as well. So yeah, we definitely let them lead that conversation, and usually they answer the questions for us. I mean, they do open up, they tell us about what their situations are, and we're able to fairly easily advise them on what they need. Yeah.
Brilliant service. How do people contact you, Sandeep, if they listen to this, cognizant of the complexity from a tax perspective, and they'd like to reach out to have a conversation? How should they reach you?
Yeah, they can reach out to us on our website, which is vanciscapital.com. We have an Instagram channel as well, Vancis Capital. We're on pretty much all the major social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. We also have a YouTube channel, so they can reach out to us anyway that they like. We have an office in Ireland. In fact, we are headquartered in Ireland, and we have offices globally. We have an office in Miami, Dubai, etc. So yeah, we're pretty much approachable from any part of the world.
The contact details will be in the show notes as ever. Thank you so much. I found that really interesting. It's an evolving area, and we see it more when people are planning to move to Ireland or looking to leave. But I think you're seeing it from a global perspective. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share those insights with us. I'm sure listeners will get a lot of value from this discussion today.
Well, it's been lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much as well, Steph, for your questions. All of them have been on point. So thank you so much for that. It's been lovely speaking to you as well.
Thanks for listening to Taxbytes for Expats. Please do leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, remember to take professional tax advice specific to your personal circumstances before acting or refraining from action in connection with the matters dealt with in this series. The material in this podcast is intended to give general guidance only.